You see all the van life photos, you watch all the van tours, but do you wonder what this nomadic lifestyle is all about? Are you curious about life on the road? Social media calls it #vanlife. We call it home. I'll ask 10 questions to get you the stories that you want to hear from the people who live, work, and travel and adventure in this nomadic lifestyle. Welcome to Life on the Road. Try this for part 2.
Sounds good to me.
Round 2. Welcome to another episode of Life on the Road, where I ask 10 questions to get you the stories that you want to hear from her life on the road. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you so much, Chad.
This is our round 2.
Second attempt.
Yep, second attempt, which we are good to go now. So, yeah, we're in sunny Arizona in a beautiful location, and I appreciate you doing this. We've been trying to do this for a minute, and we finally were able to come to a spot that we were at the same time, and I'm glad we get to do this today.
It's always harder to co-locate with other road people than you think it would be.
Yeah.
You would think that since we're all on the road, and at least, you know, you and I have somewhat flexible schedules, like work-wise and whatever, it'd be easier to co-locate. It's not.
It's not. It is amazing. It's actually a really interesting point, like, that nobody's really ever talked about on this show, is like, you would think that with social media and, you know, texting and communication, and now with the advent of Starlink and everything, that it would be super easy to communicate and, like, you know, be like, hey,
yeah. I'm going to be here. Do you want to be here?
Yeah.
But vanners are fickle people, and we want to be wherever we want to be, and we change our minds on a dime.
Yes.
And that's just how it is.
Yeah. So, like, you might be, like, committing one point, like, yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I might be in that area.
Maybe.
And then, like 2 days later, it's like, nope, I'm going to this state. And
yeah. Or people ask, like, how long are you going to be there? And I'm like, I have no idea. Maybe 24 hours, maybe 24 days. I really am not sure yet.
Exactly. I can't give you a time frame, but if you want to come, there's a chance I might be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here now, so if you want to get here now.
Yeah, exactly. You better come fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is kind of an interesting thing. We talk about, obviously, like, the van community and, like, how nice it is to be able to, like, meet up and spend time and, you know, create these little circles like we have here and really kind of get to know each other. But then also it is sometimes a challenge to, like, you know, get together and, like, you know, find time for sure.
Absolutely.
So, did you find something you like?
Salt.
Yeah, I'm definitely salty right now, for sure.
You don't have to let her.
It's okay. It's not going to bother me. So we always start the show. Please tell us who you are, where you're from, and how long you've been living on the road, and shamelessly promote yourself.
For sure. I'm Holly. My handle everywhere is Holly C. Priestley. That's also my website. I moved into this van behind me on January 1st of 2019. I was on the road full-time for 3 years, and then in 2022, I was mostly stationary in southern Arizona, and now I've been back on the road full-time for a few months, and it's been the best, easiest, smoothest transition.
Nice.
Except for the first transition into the van, which was also exceptionally smooth.
Nice. Well, we'll talk about all of those things, because I definitely want to touch on Bisbee and your break down south, and then getting back into the van, obviously. But yeah, it's, you know, it's, so you said you're from, where are you from? Did you say that?
Before I moved into the van, I had lived in the Denver area for quite a while. Most of my childhood was in northern New Mexico. Okay. So the Southwest mostly.
Southwest, yeah. New Mexico and Denver, New Mexico and Colorado we'll call home.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's time to learn about your life on the road. Question 1, what was the beginning moment, cause, or inspiration to live your life on the road?
I met my first road person right before I graduated college in February of 2011. And I was at like a rock climbing festival competition thing. So like the rock climbing community and the road community overlap pretty significantly.
Mm-hmm.
That Venn diagram is almost a circle.
Yeah.
And so I met my first person who was like on purpose, living on the road, living his best life, like fucking thriving.
Nice.
That was when the opportunity was like opened up to me, where I was like, oh, that sounds great. That sounds like a thing that I would like to do. And then I didn't do it for like 7 years.
I was going to say, like, you say this and you say 2011, and then your start didn't happen to 2019. So that's quite a gap.
Yeah, I kept wanting to do it, and then, you know, I'd get really into it. I'd be like, I'm going to move into the van. This is going to happen, or like a car, or like whatever. The person that I met was living in a Corolla. Yeah. And he had been doing it for 10 years, and he had a big dog.
Impressive.
So, like, I knew it was a thing that could happen, even with Lisa. And I kept getting really, really close and, like, doing a bunch of research, test driving cars, starting to get rid of, like, everything I owned. And then, like, right before I would make the final commitment to doing it, something in life would happen that would make it, quote unquote, inconvenient to live in a vehicle. Okay. I'd like get some kind of job or a partner or something like that, and then I would, you know, shove that dream, you know, under the bed again for a little while. Yeah. And then I made it a New Year's resolution in 2018 that, like, this has to be the year, like, do it or don't, shit or get off the pot. Yeah. Like, it's taking up space on my to-do list for my life. Yeah. So I'm either doing it or I'm not doing it, but either way, it's not going to be on the list anymore after this year. Right. So I started test driving vehicles in January of 2018. Okay. I ended up buying this one in August, and then I spent the rest of the year tearing it apart and putting it back together. Okay. And so I moved in on January 1st of 2019. Okay. So really, like, this isn't, you know, I mean, 2011 to 2019, that's amazing. A lot of things happened.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but, like, I mean, that's even before the concept of van life was even a thing. It was not a hashtag. It was not a hashtag. Nope. Let's call it not even a concept at this point. Like, living on the road was a concept. Van life hasn't even been thought about at this point, you know? And so the sheer fact that, like, this kind of stuck in the back of your head for so long is fairly impressive, to where ultimately you came to the realization that this is ultimately what I want to do.
I knew that ultimately it was something I had to try. Okay. And as I was converting this van and getting rid of everything I owned, I didn't do a storage unit or anything. I didn't keep anything that didn't fit in the van, except like some one-of-a-kind artwork and like shit like that I put in my parents' basement. But it was like less than 2 tote bins of stuff.
That's awesome.
And when I was doing that and like not holding on to any of my furniture or house goods, all of my friends were like, what if you move into the van and you hate it? Yeah. Like, you're not keeping anything. And I'm like, well, if I keep something, I'm less likely to fully commit. So I'm going to go full send. And then also, if I hate it, I can always find an apartment. Yeah. Like, housing in the Denver area was a hassle at the time. Yeah. And it's even more of a hassle now. But, like, I always knew that I could always get off of the road if I wanted to. But I had to at least give it a shot. And I didn't give myself, like, any requirements. It wasn't like, you have to do this for 6 months. You have to do this for a year. Yeah. It was just, you have to do this. Yeah. Like, see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think people, and I mean, I think you could say this about really anything, you know, putting that amount of pressure on yourself, or putting that amount of, like, a very, sometimes specific deadlines are great, right? In productivity or in job settings, that's great. But more in this lifestyle specifically, the fact that you can just live the way you want to live and not have something that is, like, tied to you from a, you know, deadline or a, you know, ultimatum or whatever, I think it makes total sense. And it allows you to really immerse yourself into what you're doing.
I think it allows for a lot more, like, curiosity. Yeah. And a lot more, like, how does this actually feel? Yeah. What do I enjoy? What don't I enjoy? Yeah. Especially with, like, the image that living on the road, that, like, hashtag van life has now.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. I think that, like, not putting a timeline on it, not putting any requirements on it gives you a lot more freedom. Yeah. Which is, like, one of my big things is, like, the different types of freedom in the world.
It's so funny you say that, because, you know, and we'll get to the question, but more often than not, freedom gets used as a term to describe why they're doing what they're doing. And everybody defines it differently.
That's why
Yeah.
I have developed the concept of the 4 different types of freedom.
Okay.
There's the freedom of time, the freedom of location, the freedom of creativity, and the freedom of finances.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which one of those is the most important to you in the moment. Anyone can find that kind of freedom in a van somehow.
100%.
On the road somehow. But you can also find it in stationary life. Like, van life is not the only way to get
All
those
of
4
those
types
things.
of freedoms.
Yeah, yeah,
But if someone's like, I wanted more freedom, it's like, what did you want? The freedom of time, the freedom of location, the freedom of what you do with your day, your
Yeah.
creativity, your energy, or like your financial freedom. And I think that it's huge.
And I will say, like, van life gives you, and this is from somebody who is relatively new in van life and has obviously lived in an apartment or stationary for most of my life, that van life provides you those opportunities faster and maybe with better opportunities for those 4 things that you just mentioned versus living stationary in a city.
Yeah, I think once you like break free of whatever mold you were raised in and were living in, just like once you get the shackles off,
Yeah.
you can explore things a little differently.
Yeah.
And so I do think that van life does a really good job of that, but also like traveling via backpack,
Yeah.
or like
Yep.
even doing the Airbnb thing,
Yep.
or just in some way removing yourself from the structure that you have been living in for so long if it's not working for you.
Yeah. Well, and the word that comes to mind for me is discovery. You know,
Yes.
it gives you the opportunity to really not only discover your surroundings and in the location that you're going to put yourself into. It gives you moments to discover the people that you're around, the cultures that you're immersed in, and then really ultimately discovery of yourself.
Yep.
At the end of the day, like, and that's maybe the biggest thing that why maybe I think I'm in love with van life and nomadic travel is that true self-discovery. Aspect of it, obviously seeing beautiful places, and we're arguably in one of the most gorgeous places in Arizona right now, and this view is pretty epic.
Yeah, I hope you do some B-roll of these views here.
I don't typically do B-roll, but what I promise you I'll do is I'll drop a bunch of photos in of the surrounding area for sure.
You better.
So that everybody can see what we're looking at. It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Question 2. What has been your experience with other nomadic travelers while living your life on the road?
My experience with other nomadic travelers has been, I think, a little different than most people's if they're getting into van life right now.
Yeah.
When I got on the road in 2019, I went straight to an event.
Okay.
January is the time for nomads in southwestern Arizona in Quartzsite. The Rubber Tramp Rendezvous was happening, RTR, and that was the first year they had the women's only version, like before the regular version.
Okay.
So I hopped in the van and went straight to an event, straight to a meetup, and I met a bunch of other women my age who were like all also very new to the lifestyle. And that was incredible, and that was absolutely the best possible way, and I'm so glad that I did that.
Yeah.
And then after that, I didn't really find other vanners that way. I've never been to a ticketed event. I've never been to an event that I had to pay for.
Right.
And I think that like events are happening a lot more now, especially now that the pandemic is still happening, but is less happening.
Yeah.
Events are starting to happen again. And I think, there's kind of like a circuit. There's an event circuit that people can go to. And I think events are a great way to meet people.
Yep.
I didn't do that. I met people through Instagram because bless social media sometimes. And then I met people out and about. Like I would approach people in parking lots sometimes, which was a lot for me as like kind of a hermity introvert to like put myself out there. And I've met people that way. My experience with people on the road is that, you can, man, there's 2 main things I want to say. One is that you can get intimate with people really fast because you can't park next to somebody without being a part of their life. Like,
Correct.
When they wake up, when they go to sleep, when they eat, when they use the friggin' bathroom, like, like everything about a person. You can't come into my house for dinner without like also being like in my kitchen, in my dining room, in my bedroom, in my closet, in my bathroom, in everything, right? And like same for anybody else's vehicle.
Yeah.
And so the lifestyle also is just like such a such a deliberate choice that you're making that you can bond with other road people fairly quickly, because it's like, hey, we're choosing to make this decision, this lifestyle decision, and it's a little different than maybe what we were raised with and what everybody else is doing, so we automatically have something in common.
Yeah.
So I think that can be amazing and really cool, and I've had an easier time making friends and finding community on the road than I have in stationary life.
Yes, 100%.
But at the same time, road people are people, and you are not going to like all of them, and you are going to meet people on the road who you maybe don't ever want to cross paths with again, and that is okay, and that doesn't make you a bad person, and it might not make them a bad person.
Yeah.
But we're all humans.
Exactly. No, I think you touched on a lot of really great things. One, the nomadic community is truly, truly a community, you know, and you were starting out in, let's call it, early days of van life, you know, pre-pandemic. I'd like to divide...
Pre-pandemic. Yep, it was a totally different world.
Exactly. I like to divide, you know, van life into pre and post-pandemic.
Oh my goodness.
Because they're two totally different worlds.
Yes.
At the end of the day. So, you know, you got in it when things were a bit simpler. There wasn't the masses that are in it now, which, again, is
I still felt like I was late to the party.
Yeah.
Because, again, like, I had found out about it, like, 8 years prior.
Yeah, yeah. And again, like, I think it's good that so many people have come into this lifestyle, but it's also what's caused a lot of issues, you know, with some of the public lands that we're dealing with,
Yes.
You know, throughout this time. But the community is truly a community, and more often than not, the van meetups, and I've said it a couple times on this show, are kind of the glue to the community, you know, to where now it's become such, to your point, a circuit, you know, to where there's so many of them in the summertime, like you can go from one to the next,
or in the wintertime,
and roll with the crew and meet tons and tons and tons of people, you know, make incredible friends right away. And, you know, it's very easy to ingratiate yourself into this community quickly.
Yeah.
If you want to. You know, you kind of going a little bit of the opposite route and kind of taking your own path, to me, is a very much a sign of pre-pandemic life, van life, you know. It seems more often that, you know, anybody that has gotten into van life post-pandemic seems to really go the route of the meetups versus, you know, using maybe social media or Instagram and doing it organically, which is kind of what I've now come across. A lot of people that got involved in 2018 and 2019, that's kind of how they did it. So, you know, I think it's very interesting, the two kind of, you know, post and pre introductions to van life. Yeah,
I think that there are a lot of differences between the pre-pandemic road people and the post-pandemic or current pandemic road people.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely a big one. And there's not like a right way or a wrong way or anything. I think it's just utilizing your resources and knowing your personality.
Yep.
But, you know, the more people I meet, the more people I meet. So I don't necessarily have to go to an event to meet people. I can just hang out with people who know people who know people. I mean, how many of the same people do we know?
Yeah, well, like
we finally are able to park next to each other.
Was something where like we were talking about doing this interview, you know, for a minute, and it was like, oh, I know this person, like, oh, I know this person, like the amount of people that we knew each other or together before you and I ever met was pretty amazing. And it was like, oh, you'll eventually meet Holly. You'll eventually, like, interview her. Don't worry. You'll, like, you know.
Yeah, your paths will cross.
Exactly.
Unless you're actively avoiding each other, or you're just being a flaky vanner who wants to go wherever you want to go.
And that's totally fine, too. Like, that's acceptable. It's one of those things where, and we talk about it a lot, too. Like, we're in a small group right here. There's, you know, 3 of us. Oh,
Is that going to mess up our audio?
Nah. There's a very cool old plane flying over us right now.
Yeah.
No, the audio is actually pretty good. It picks it up. I mean, that's pretty loud. It might pick that up, but it's okay. This is what happens in this show.
Hashtag van life, hashtag blast.
Exactly. I completely lost my train of thought. Community. Yeah. I mean, honestly, again, you can have a small group meetup like where we're at. You know, there's 3 of us here. There might be a couple other vans coming. And you really have the opportunity to get to know somebody very well, very quickly in this setting. And you can be as engaged as you want.
Yep.
Or you can sit in your rig the entire time.
You can be a hermit curmudgeon like me and just own it. Yeah. All of my friends know. When I go join a new circle, it's really funny. My friends who already know me be like, oh, Holly's coming, just so you know, she's the biggest introvert there is. Like, don't be offended if she doesn't come out. Don't be offended if she, like, goes to bed early. Don't be offended. And I kind of love that. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I don't have to, like, explain myself. People just know. They already know when I'm showing up. Like, oh, that's great. She's an introvert. Leave her alone.
No. And again, but no one's going to judge you for it. That's the best part of this community.
Yeah.
You know, they are going to let you be you. Yes. And you can come out and you can be engaging and you can be, you know, the extrovert that you want to be when you want to be it. You know, no one's going to force you to, you know, put you in a situation that, you know, you're uncomfortable in or that you don't want to be a part of. And, you know, that's what's so amazing about this community, or what I've loved about this community.
I find that other road people are less likely to, like, take it personally. You know, if you're normal things.
Yeah. Just a Jeeper deciding not to go up the Jeep road.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I don't know either.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ultimately I feel like community is, you know, one of the biggest aspects of van life that, you know, and it's what's so amazing too, when I built Althea, or I started designing Althea, I had no concept of the community. And that has been the biggest surprise for me. Yeah. And really, what obviously now has been the most important part and why I love it so much is this community. Like, I had no concept of what the community was. There was, I don't know, like, I just didn't understand, like, trying to do research online or watching YouTube videos. You can't really tell, and it's really the reason why I started this show, was trying to just highlight what this experience is all about.
What life is like.
Yeah, what life is like and why we do what we do and how we do what we do.
And there's so many different ways and whys, and there's no wrong
way to do it.
Or why,
I mean,
it's all good.
Yeah, the most important thing is just starting and getting out here and becoming a part of this community at the end of the day, because it truly is a community. And it's amazing how much more, to me personally, how much more tied in it is than living in a city or living in a stationary life, you know.
I have noticed that as well, especially having recently been mostly stationary. I found it much harder to meet people and make friends. And part of that, again, is my personality.
Right.
I am more observant than engaging. I am more likely to go to live music, which is a very popular thing in the town that I have a house in. And I'll sit in the back, I'll enjoy the music, I'll, like, look at friends, like, groups of friends, be like, oh, they look like nice people. I'm not going to say hi to them, but they look nice, you know, and, like...
I like watching them.
Yeah, but vanning, I don't know, I think there's that element of, like, we have a shared lifestyle choice.
Like, circling us.
Yeah, you know, he knows what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just trying to make a scene, which is fine.
Yeah.
Hello.
It's kind of cool, though. Like, it's a cool plane.
I can imagine seeing this from the air. It's even, like, such a different perspective.
Oh,
such a beautiful area.
Yeah. I mean, we now understand why he's flying over this area. It's truly stunning. So, yeah, his view from that cockpit must be just incredible. But, okay, sorry. We keep getting interrupted.
Making friends on the road, I think, is easier. Finding community on the road, I find to be easier.
Yeah, far easier.
Even as, like, an introvert.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, and I think it's a really valid point, is you're not going to like everybody on the road.
No.
You know, you're going to get into some van circles, or you're going to get to some van meetups, and you're going to be like, yeah, I don't see eye to eye with that person.
I could take this person, I could take that person, I could leave that person, I could leave that whole group over there, I could take this person.
Yeah, exactly, and that's okay.
And you can do that.
Yeah, it's totally okay. Yeah, I love it. Question 3, what has been your biggest failure, and what has been your biggest triumph while living your life on the road?
Triumph is easy.
Okay.
The biggest triumph is just doing it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, that's it.
Well, I mean, you have been thinking about it for a long time.
I've been thinking about it for a long time. Also, before, maybe, what year are we in?
2023.
The year of our pandemic, 2023.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe like 5-6 years ago, I My social anxiety was so bad.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I couldn't even like go to the grocery store alone. I
Okay.
couldn't do anything alone. And for an introvert, that is a challenge.
Yeah.
I lived alone. It was just me and Lisa, and I like
This is Lisa.
This is Lisa, in case that wasn't obvious. And I couldn't do anything.
Okay.
I couldn't go anywhere, and I started taking like very deliberate steps to be able to like exist in the world alone, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to live my best life if I didn't tackle that issue.
Okay.
So I started very, very small. Grocery stores for me have always been a fucking challenge and a half, and they still are.
Interesting.
But that was like an area that I kind of started with.
Okay.
And I would take her and I would leave her in the car, pre-van again, and I would go inside in the grocery store. I would have one earbud in, listening to music, and I would just like race to like get everything that I could get. And half the time I would like leave without half the shit I needed because I just couldn't hang. I couldn't handle like doing all of that and being in there. But knowing that I had my dog in the car made it a little more palatable, made it easier. Like at least when I leave, I get to go see my dog immediately.
Yeah.
And so we started really small with that. And then, you know, we started going on hikes alone. And oh my God, I could tell you about the very first hike I took alone. And like, it was a thing. It was an ordeal. And I hate that it was, you know, it's like, it's a little bit embarrassing, but it's like, whatever, it's fine. Like, I don't care.
Anxiety is real. Like, it's something that people have to really deal with. And sometimes it's really severe. Sometimes it's, you know, it's not, or it's less. But like, it's something that, well, I'm glad at least nowadays is getting spoken a lot about, a lot more, because 5 years ago it really wasn't, you know, and so that was probably very difficult, you know, for you at the time with having a lack of knowledge and then just trying to understand what you were feeling. Like, I imagine that to be very, very challenging.
It was a big challenge. And I mean, at that point, there was no way I thought that I could move into a van by myself, right? I was kind of like, I have to have a partner or something. I was a serial monogamist for a very, very long time. And when I started making these changes, I was in my first like lengthy period of singlehood. And I was single for a few years. And so that's when it was like, fuck, I gotta like do something about this. And so I started trying to learn how to exist in the world on my own. And so then moving into the van by myself, just me and Lisa, and people are always like, by yourself? And I'm like, no, not by myself. I have my dog. But like some people, I don't know. I didn't have another human with me. It was just me and Lisa. And so that's my biggest triumph, was just doing it and getting it done, like achieving this goal.
I mean,
and,
it's one thing.
It's been the best.
It's one thing that, like, you know, you mentioned earlier that it took you a very long time from your introduction in 2011 to start van life. But now you layer over top of it, yes, you're an introvert. Yes, now you're saying and talking about like how, you know, you had some pretty severe anxiety along that journey. And so like you layer all of those things, and it is now, in my opinion, a massive triumph that you're here. I mean, it's pretty impressive, to be honest.
The biggest thing I've ever learned from van life, the best thing that has ever come out of this lifestyle, is an ever-growing sense of capability, you know? And some people would call that empowerment. Some people would call that confidence. For me, it's just capability. I can do this. I can handle it when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It is not an if. It is a when.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I can handle stressful situations. Like, I can figure it out. I don't need anybody else. Like, I use the internet a lot, to be clear.
Of course.
But, like, I can do it. And, like, that's the biggest thing is doing it. Biggest triumph. Biggest failure. One of the biggest stressful things that happened to me right at the beginning was the like glass cover on my sink stove thing shattered into a million pieces at the end of a very long driving day, at the end of a couple of very long weeks socializing in the desert. And like, that was awful. I've talked about it on my podcast before. And like, that was just one of those like awful times, and like all of my electronics were dying. The sun had just set, like I was out of service. And I was like, I can't sleep here. Like, And that was the first night I slept behind a gas station ever. And like, that was a stressful time.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my bigger.
Well, and again,
hard times.
I think this is great. I think this is a great kind of story and reference, you know, for people that are thinking about van life. And we just mentioned it, you know, van life is hard. Oh, there's some horses over there. It's pretty good. Oh, Lisa, it's okay.
Hey, I know those big dogs are a little scurry. Please stop.
I think it's one of those really important things is like, this lifestyle is not easy. It's hard.
No.
And you're going to have really, really fucking bad days. Like, and
Yes.
you know, like obviously it sounds like this one day was the culmination of everything bad that could potentially possibly happen.
And it happened right away.
Yeah.
And so after that, it was like, oh,
Everything else is
okay.
easy. Like, I got this.
One
yeah.
thing that I always say is that like living in a van eliminates the complicated parts of life, like eliminates like the complicated parts of living in a house. You don't have to clean out your gutters.
Yeah.
You don't have to like coordinate. I don't know. There's a lot of complications that come with just living your standard American lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so living in a van eliminates those, but it complicates the simple things. It complicates electricity. It complicates water. It complicates where you're going to sleep. It complicates a lot of things that you don't even think about if you have a house or an apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's a huge element of the lifestyle. People are like, I want to live a simple life. And it's like, it's simple, but it's complicated.
Yeah, it's not simple. It's simple in a sense that like you're living simply, right? But it is not a simple life.
It brings you face to face with exactly how much water you use
Yeah.
to do anything.
Yeah, 100%. But it's also like, you know, it brings on a whole new set of challenges, and challenges in a way that like this lifestyle is really hard.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
It's not rainbows and unicorns and great views all the time. Normal things.
Cool motorcycle guy. Exactly. Yeah, we're parked next to our friend Sierra. She's been on the show, and she says all the time, I'm referencing you, Sierra, that, you know, van life is not, you know, rainbows and unicorns, or what do you say? Stars and rainbows? Rainbows and kittens. There we go. Rainbows and kittens. Yes. So yeah, I mean, I want to make sure that everybody understands how difficult it is.
Yeah.
But yet it's so rewarding, obviously. That's why we do it.
And it's doable.
Yeah.
Like, I am not unique. There is nothing special about me. I have not done a single thing that you cannot do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just doing it.
Yeah. Well,
that's the difference.
I like what you referenced earlier in a sense that like I've learned that I can do anything. You know,
Yeah.
like from coming from such an introverted, you know, maybe point of view while living in a stationary life, to put yourself in a van and then quickly realize that there are a lot of difficult things that you're going to come across, but you physically and mentally can do them. Yeah.
You can do so much more than you think you can.
Yeah.
I can still do so much more than I currently think I can.
Yeah.
And I think I can do a lot of things.
Yeah, which I absolutely love. So, question number 4. Did you start your life on the road as a single person?
Yes.
And what is it like living your life on the road as a single person?
Okay, so the first year I was in the van, I was single. And then I had a boyfriend for a year and a half, and then I've been single since.
Okay.
So I have both experiences.
Both sides, yeah.
Both experiences, and they're both hard and great.
Yeah.
A lot of times it would be so nice to have somebody else to share the chores with, to share the drive time with, to share the planning with, to share the bills with.
Yeah.
You know, most things that, like, it would be nice to have a partner with in a stationary life, too. Like,
Of
just
course.
to have someone to bounce ideas off of or share the load.
Yeah.
It would also be really nice to have a consistent person to make memories with. And, like, you know, the first year I was in the van, I didn't caravan with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I just did my own thing and, like, went and was alone a lot.
Yeah.
And it was great, and it was hard. And sometimes I'd be in these beautiful situations, in this beautiful, like, overlooking a lake or
Yeah.
like something very
Beautiful
quintessentially, like, van lifey.
Yeah.
And it would be great, but there would be a part of me that was sad that I didn't have somebody else to share it with.
Yes.
But then traveling with somebody else and, like, having a partner is also hard.
Yeah.
And great and wonderful. Like, they're both great,
Yeah.
and they're both challenging.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Currently single on the road with 2 dogs, and, like, it's great and it's challenging.
yeah, for sure. And we've got another friend coming. We're going to let pass for a
It's
second.
a Saturday. We did this to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And we're in a very popular spot, so
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's interesting that you say that, because like that's kind of where, I mean, for me personally, where my head has finally gotten to is where it would be really nice to share these experiences with somebody.
Yeah.
Like that is my desire, to have a relationship, in a sense that like I'm very content in Althea alone and traveling alone. I'm realizing there's things I'm working on, and that's, I think everybody needs to do that, and van life will bring that to you faster than you can imagine.
Sure will.
So, you know, those are all things that are important, and, you know, will help you ultimately in your life, because it will make you face those things that you need to work on right away, which, you know, is a blessing. But at the same time, like, I get to some of these places, we get to some of these environments, and like I instantly think, God, I wish I was here with somebody and I could share this.
Yeah.
You know, and you could share this beautiful place, or you could share this beautiful experience.
Unfortunately, sometimes it takes away from the experience.
Yeah.
Although if you're with the wrong person, that will ruin your experience as well. And so sometimes looking back and having my memories where I'm solo, it's like, well, I was solo, but at least I don't have a memory of someone who behaved poorly, broke my heart, did something shitty, you know, like discoloring that otherwise good memory.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean,
pros and cons.
Yeah, exactly. It's a catch-22, obviously. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
But, and two, like, I'm super curious on two things. The first one you can answer quickly, because I think it'd be easy. What about the concept
That's
of...
what you think.
Yeah, exactly. What about the concept of having someone else in your rig, or do you want to date somebody with their own rig?
I think, my rig is too big for just me, but it would have to be exactly the right situation. And I've said this on my podcast before too. I think that you need to have as many engines as you do adults. I think that you can live two people in one van, but then you need to have a tow, you need to have a dirt bike, you need to have like something the fuck else so you guys can get away from each other.
Yeah.
No matter how lovey-dovey you are and how everything is perfect all the time.
Yeah.
I think that you need to have as many engines as you do people. So if you have two vans, great. If you have one van, get a dirt
motorcycle.
bike. Yeah, like, and make sure both of you can ride it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about that. And that's a hill I will die on.
I actually love that answer. I mean, I love the concept, and I've always said it, where I think the two rig situation is ideal, where you can share spaces but have your own separate space. You know, you can spend time in one bed and in one kitchen and in one rig, and then yet have your own space to kind of go away to, or you can go somewhere else, for a time.
Or if someone like has an adventure they want to go on that you don't want to go on. When I had my partner for that year and a half, he was a road person as well, so he came with his own rig. And then over the course of our relationship, we caravan together a lot. We were apart a lot. When we were together, like, my van was the one we lived in because mine was bigger. So we like cooked and slept in mine, but then his was really good storage. His was more of a like errand type vehicle. And so, yeah, I think that there's value in having two vehicles, but you need as many engines as you have adults.
I do like that concept. Engines and adults equal each other in a relationship.
Yeah, engine count needs to equal adult count.
That's perfect.
So if you're in one of those like poly relationships and you got like 4 adults, you got to have a lot of dirt bikes.
Exactly.
You got to have a lot of dirt bikes.
Yep. A big e-bike rack on the back of one of the rigs for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some other modes of transportation.
Yeah.
I love it.
You thought that was going to be a quick answer?
Yeah.
Cute.
I know you're not ever going to have quick answers. I don't even know what I was going to ask the other question, so we will move on to...
Come back to that one, I guess.
Well, we'll move on to everyone's favorite question is, what is, number 5, what is the best place or craziest place you've had sex during your life on the road?
I feel like my friends would know this answer more than I do because, like, once I tell them crazy stories, I kind of forget them. So I wish I could do the, like, phone a friend thing. I think for me... I've had sex outside a lot more than I did before, and I think that's excellent.
Yeah.
I'm not an exhibitionist by any means. Like, I don't get off on like, ooh, someone might catch me.
Yeah.
But I have noticed over the years that if I can be naked outside, I am so much more turned on.
For sure.
Everything is just so much like nicer just to like have the sun on like parts of you that
Yeah.
the sun doesn't get to see.
Exactly.
So I think that's probably the best, is just like any
Being
amount
outside.
of outside where I'm not really at risk of getting caught. Personally, that's not my jam.
Yeah, no, of course. And, you know, we're fortunate to get to some of the most beautiful locations in the United States.
Yeah.
And so, you know, having, you know, intimacy with a partner in that setting is ideal. It's, you know, literally perfect.
Yeah.
So being able to do it outside is fantastic. I mean, that's why Althea has a big roof.
I've never done it on my roof.
Really?
Really, it kind of curved
Okay.
at the top there. That seems a little dangerous.
I mean, I have like a looped rack.
You have one of those like little kid like
Yeah.
bunk bed rack.
Protectors.
Like you're not gonna roll off.
Exactly.
You could roll off of mine.
Yeah. That could be very dangerous for sure.
Yeah.
Question number 6.
'Kay.
How do you make money during or living your life on the road?
I make money in kind of a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I personally have always had a lot of anxiety around having a single income source.
Yeah.
So I say yes to a lot of things. I make money in a lot of different ways. Most of my income over the last 4 or 5 years has been through freelance writing. So I do a lot of ghostwriting for like B2B tech companies, or I'll write for the outdoor industry. But I've also like made money like having my podcast, not a lot, but a little bit.
Nice.
I've helped.
We will
like,
definitely reference the podcast for sure. It's amazing. Everybody should listen.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'll say yes to gigs. Like if I'm in a town, one of my friends paid me to help her unpack her house when she moved, and I happened to be in the same city for a couple of days. I recently have made an affirmation deck out of my affirmation quote artwork, so I'm selling that, and I sell some products with the artwork on it as well, like journals and postcards and things like that. So a lot of different ways, because that's what makes me feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah, and honestly, like I think it's a testament to kind of like how our community functions in a way that you can have the opportunity to have a lot of different income streams. Like you don't have to, you know, more often than not, I feel like you live in a city, you live in a stationary location, you go to your 9 to 5 and you have a job, a single job.
I haven't done that in so long,
Right.
Even in my last apartment.
Yeah, and it's so foreign to me now because I'm the same way. Like I haven't done that in forever.
Yeah.
But yet I feel like majority of society, that's how they function, right? One job, 9 to 5, I go to work every day and I come home.
Yep.
This lifestyle gives you so much opportunity to, you know, branch out and do so many other things.
I think that's part of like what we were talking about at the beginning. Like once you break free of the mold and like once you shake off like the expectations, then you have more openness to discovery, more openness to curiosity, and you can say yes to more things just because you can,
right?
Because you have the time, or you know, your mind has just been opened in a new way.
Yeah, to more creative opportunities, or to discover something that you maybe inside have dreamed of doing, but never really took that step. And this lifestyle can give you that opportunity to take that first step. I mean, for me, it was photography. You know, I've only been shooting professionally for 3.5 years. Like literally, first time I've said it.
That's pretty good.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got like halfway through the show, and I've only said it one time.
Damn.
It's impressive, right?
All right, I should call you out more often.
I know. I'm becoming consciously aware of it as well. We had a long conversation about how many times I say literally last night.
It's literally a lot.
It's literally every single second. So, yes. So now I'm thinking about it constantly. But during the pandemic, and I've told this story a couple times, like, I decided that I wanted to try and shoot professionally. So I shot a photograph every single day in the middle of the pandemic, 2020. You know, end of 2020, I built my website, put myself out there, and started getting work. And it's been something that like I've gradually become able to make halfway decent money with, you know, over 3.5 years. And I love it. And it's become something that, again, a lot of my desire to get into a van was to like do the things that I love to do. You know, so finding happiness in whether I'm doing a job or I'm doing something socially, I want to be doing the things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And so like finding a creative outlet that was something that was just a passion project, now turning it into an income stream, has been so rewarding,
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
fulfilling, and brings me so much joy that now, like, again, your happiness just goes up exponentially at that point, I feel like. So, and it sounds like with, your podcast and the things that you're doing creatively, these are all things you love to do, So again, I feel like it's the opportunity of taking, maybe a way to make money, but then to me, you're just layering it on, like, your overall happiness and your overall kind of sense of joy, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. I think that it offers a lot more opportunities.
Yeah.
I think that on the money conversation, I think that living in a van can be as expensive or as inexpensive to a point that you want it to be.
Yeah.
And I live very frugally. I spend less each month doing a van lifestyle than I did just on my apartment in Denver, and I lived in a cheap apartment in a not good part of town.
Yeah.
And so not having, that overarching like rent payment,
massive
or
expense,
whatever, it opens up a lot more. Well, I don't have to work that many hours. I don't have to work that particular type of job. I can explore more avenues that might bring me more joy, more fulfillment. And I have that opportunity. But if you have huge overhead, and maybe you got into van life with a car payment or something of that effect. I didn't. I am debt free and have been since the beginning, and that has also given me so much freedom.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is like the choices that you're making along the way. It doesn't have to be an expensive thing to do, but it could be if you want, a cartoonishly large van with a bunch of nice things in it.
She just pointed to Althea, by the way, just FYI. And
I mean, any van that makes mine look small is huge.
she's a monster rig. And
Yeah.
and honestly, like, I'm doing van life kind of backwards in a sense. Like, I'm in my 40s. I've worked most of my life professionally, worked very hard, made money. And I now can afford to do and design a rig exactly as I wanted. And that was kind of like the way I wanted to do it, And again, there's no right or wrong way. Like, you can live in a van with just a floor and a sleeping bag. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the whole point is you just getting out here. No one's going to judge you for it. Everybody's going to welcome you no matter what. Mm-hmm. You can be in the biggest rig on the planet, or you can be in, a car. It doesn't matter. Just come out and join us and be a part of the community. But, actually I'm going to use this question because I did want to ask a question in reference to Bisbee.
Uh-huh.
And I'm asking this because I don't know the answer.
Okay.
You got off the road for a brief time, and I know that you lived in Bisbee.
Yep. Facts.
Did you buy a place? Are you renting a place now that you're back on the road? Is this become an income stream? Or what did you do with your place in Bisbee?
I bought a place in Bisbee. I still own my place in Bisbee. Last year, while I was still living there, I tried short-term rentals. I tried Airbnb, and I didn't like it.
Okay.
So right now, I am keeping the house as a safe space and an incubator and security for myself.
Okay.
I am not currently renting it out. I am open to the idea of medium-term rentals.
Yeah.
So if I have friends or friends of friends who need a safe place to land for a month or 3, I'm open to that.
Yeah.
But the house is kind of emotional to me, so I didn't just want to rent it out like long term.
To anybody.
Or to anybody.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I was just super curious because, and two, I'm curious, and we can use this question to kind of talk about this a bit. Being on the road for as long as you were, choosing to get off the road, stay in one city, and then now basically re-entering van life. Like, what was that process and why?
It was kind of a surprise, to be honest. I had visited Bisbee numerous times over the years that I was on the road. And every time I passed through, I enjoyed it. It was nice. It was great. It was awesome. And then in the fall of 21, I went to Bisbee and I was able to sit there for a couple of days after a fairly stressful time in California, and I just wanted to like sit still for a couple of days and rest and not have to drive every day and whatever.
Yeah.
And while I was in Bisbee having my rest period, something happened in my soul, and I don't know a better way to describe it. And so for those of you who are not woo-woo, this might sound ridiculous. Those of you who are woo-woo might be like, yeah, girl. But it basically felt like my soul shot a taproot into the ground and was like, this is home, this is home, this is home. And I was like, bitch, you don't know what you're talking about.
That's amazing.
We have never had a geographic location be home, like ever.
Yeah.
I've never felt like any place was home. I felt like Lisa, the dog, is home. The van is home.
Yeah.
I've had certain people feel like home. I've never in my life had a geographic location be home. So I left
Okay.
and came back and left and came back multiple times just to be like,
Is
you
this
can't,
real?
You can't possibly.
Yeah.
You cannot be serious.
Okay.
And every time I came back, every time I drove over the Mule Mountains, my body was just like, home. And it's the weirdest feeling because I've never felt it before.
Yeah.
And so I was like, my gut gets whatever she wants pretty much. And she really wanted me to get us a house there. And so I started like, long story short, I made it happen. We got a house.
Yeah.
And then I knew that I didn't know how long I would want to be there. I didn't know how long it would last. I figured I would get like itchy feet and I'd need to be back on the road. So I didn't sell the van or anything.
Yeah.
And I took the van out for trips and, whatever. But for the better part of the year, like we did a lot of house projects.
Yeah.
And like I brought this home was a safe space for me, and I brought it up kind of into modern day. It is a 110-year-old house. It is quirky, but it is a great like van to house transition house.
Nice.
For a lot of reasons. But then like right before New Year's, like mid-December, I started getting that
itch again.
That like restless, like, ooh, I gotta fucking go.
Yeah.
And then eventually it became an emergency, and it's just like that feeling of urgency, and like I have to get out of here. So I packed up the dogs and.
I mean,
we haven't slept in the house since.
It's such a cool story. Like, because again, when I was getting into van life, obviously I was doing all my research. I was kind of, picking and choosing and following certain individuals. Mm-hmm. You're one of those individuals that I have followed for a long time.
Thank you.
Just your podcast is very informative. It's great. But it was always curious, like you were kind of an OG van lifer, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I found a home. And this is when I was like even meeting friends of friends that like knew you and knew me. And I was like, oh, like, do you know this person? Do you know why she got off the road? And it was like, and then.
Just felt like it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of interesting that it was like you discovered a place that truly felt like home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing because I think it's going to happen in van life to where it's going to take a big event to get you off the road. At least that's how it feels for me. Yeah.
I think everybody gets on the road for different reasons. And so I think that your duration of time on the road, there's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. It's just whatever works for you. And I was on the road longer than I thought I would be, but I wasn't mad about it. Mm-hmm. I was getting a little tired, A lot of 2022 was sleeping, honestly. A lot of rest. And house projects, which cause more rest. And, I think that I needed, a lot of things happened last year that I think the universe, I think my soul knew were coming and knew that I wouldn't be able to handle it in the van, and I had to have a stationary place.
Okay.
Which is why I call it my safe space, my incubator, because it really did help me heal from a lot of things physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
And then it was like, all right, I got to get back out there. I got to get back on the road.
That's amazing. It's such a great story. So thank you for sharing that. I love that.
Yeah.
Question number 7. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the rig. What is your rig? Who built it? And why did you choose it to live a life on the road?
It is a 1997 Ford E350.
Okay.
I bought it because it was in my budget, basically.
Totally fair and a very simple but great answer.
Yeah. Well, I knew that I had to have a van I could stand in.
Yep.
And I really wanted a van that had less than 100,000 miles on it. It had 97.
Okay. Check box.
And as woo-woo as getting the house was, when I went and saw this van for the first time to test drive it, I pulled into the parking lot and I took one look at her and I was like, she's too big. It's not going to happen. She's too big. But I had already gotten there. The seller was, I was like, I'm at least going to take her around the block.
Yeah.
And I opened the driver's side door and I pulled myself up into the driver's seat. And as soon as I sat down, like I got this big whiff of like old Ford smell. Anyone who has ever been in an old Ford, maybe you were raised in them, I don't know, but they have a smell.
Yep.
And as soon as I got that, like we had a Ford F-250 going up.
I was going to say old Ford trucks literally carry the smell, and they're amazing.
This is how the cab of my van smells.
Ford F-100s are the best trucks on the planet.
And then I got the exact same feeling that I got in Bisbee.
Yeah.
I got like, oh, this is it.
This is home.
It doesn't even matter, like nothing matters, this is it. Which is not how you should buy cars.
No.
But it's how,
at
it
least
was in my budget.
At least you're test driving it.
And I did test drive it.
Yeah.
I took it to a mechanic before I bought it.
Okay.
Which is also what you should do.
100%. Like, especially with old rigs. Like, we talk about it all the time with old rigs on the show, is like, test drive it. Take it to a mechanic you trust.
Yep.
Like, go through it. Make sure it's sound before you make this investment. Yeah, all good things for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I bought it, it was half converted.
Okay.
So it had a bunch of cabinets in it that I hated. It had the bed and the stove are the only things that I have left where they're located.
Okay.
I ripped out the floor. I ripped out a bench seat that was in the back. I ripped out the ceiling. I ripped out all the cabinets. I ripped out like these like beds that they had. A family of like 4 like lived in it for a little while.
Okay.
And so they had like built like
bunk
beds basically for their kids, which is weird. And like, I mean, cool, like great for them, but it didn't work for me.
Yeah, of course.
So I bought it half converted, and then I finished converting it with the help of some friends and my dad mostly.
Nice.
And we built most of it in 3 days over a Thanksgiving break weekend. And it was like 30 degrees outside, and we were hungover, and I would not recommend building a van that way, but we did it.
Amazing. And basically, let's talk, because she is an old rig. Mm-hmm. What year is she?
97.
97, okay. Mm-hmm. Old van. And old vans
I don't know, it doesn't sound old to me.
Well, no. But like old rigs or, vintage rigs, whatever you want to call them, and she's not vintage.
She's not vintage. How dare?
Exactly. Sorry, I'm insulting your van. But like old rigs get talked about a lot in terms of, stress and maintenance and,
Yes, so one of the reasons I got an old Ford, and I was excited to get an old Ford and not like a brand new Sprinter or even the Transit, was that A, she's a tank, and B,
that engine's bulletproof too.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to the mechanic on Tuesday, but like, she's amazing. I knew that if I broke down in Podunk, Podunk mechanics could fix it.
Yep.
I didn't need to go to a dealership.
Yep.
It's not very complicated.
Yep.
Like, I could go to a U-Pull and like pretty much get almost any part I needed.
Yep.
So there are benefits to like old, especially American-made vehicles
for sure
in America.
Well, and two, like, I bring it up just to highlight so that others know. And, as you've watched older episodes, with, maybe, Jess is a great reference with her old rig and, some of the other things where they talk about how difficult it is to maintain an older vehicle. Mm-hmm. And yet you're always going to be able to find a mechanic more than likely that's going to be able to work on it.
Yeah.
You're just you run the risk of being there often depending on what rig you have. So, like, I always bring it up as a highlight to just make sure if you're going to buy an old rig, understand that these are the challenges that you're potentially going to go through. And spending time in a city at a mechanic shop is potentially one of those things that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah. In my experience, my friends who have the newer vehicles that are more complicated, that have more computers, that have more the fancy shit, they spend more time in mechanics' offices than I do.
I'll say
I don't
ProMasters in general. As we're staring at our friend's ProMaster right now.
I mean, she's an older vehicle. And the first year we were on the road, she was in the mechanic kind of a lot because she hadn't been loved as much. Yeah. And so the first year we had to fix a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But then we basically have only been to the mechanic since then for like oil changes and shit.
That's fantastic.
And so like right now she's having a couple of issues we are working on them.
There you go.
But by and large, I haven't had to spend a ton of time in mechanics offices.
That's
which is
great. Yeah, that is fantastic considering.
Yeah.
So
because your mileage may vary.
Yeah. Well, and again, we've heard horror stories on the show about older rigs and how much time and effort and money. More often than not, it's money, whereas
you think you're saving money by getting an older rig, but you're not necessarily, depending on...
Over time, you're going to eventually spend just as much money maintaining or fixing that old rig as you would if you bought, a somewhat older ProMaster Transit Sprinter, And again, not a proponent of any of the vehicles. I have a Sprinter, I love her, but at the same time, it's weighing those options or weighing that cost, is something to think about, before you buy a rig or an old rig. So.
Yeah, your priorities and your lifestyle are going to dictate a lot more about what kind of rig you get than what's cool. When I was shopping for rigs, I thought I wanted a big white van, a big Sprinter, Transit, ProMaster, because that's what everybody else had. And I figured that if people had them, that was good. Yeah. And I'm really glad that I didn't end up with one.
Yeah.
Because I think she's more bulletproof.
One, I can't picture you in a white Sprinter. Good God. I've now known you for 10 seconds, and your personality and everything about you as an aura says hell no to the hell no to the white Sprinter. So yeah, if I would have rolled up last night and I'd have turned and seen your rig and it was a white Sprinter, I'd have been like, this doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't fit at all. Question number 8. What is your best bathroom, number 1 or number 2 story from your life on the road? First of all, is there a toilet in the rig?
No.
Okay.
No. I can give you the toilet in the rig history.
Well, yeah, let's do that.
So when I first moved into the van, I went straight to Quartzsite, and they said on all the forums for this event, there are going to be way too many people here for all of us to be digging cat holes, so you need to be self-contained, pack it out, pack everything out, including your solids.
Your waste, yeah.
Yep. And so they recommended you get the 5-gallon bucket, the luggable loo, the bags, all the things. So I went ahead and did that.
Okay.
And I had that set up in my van for almost a year maybe, and I used it maybe twice.
Okay.
It was not for me. I didn't like it, but I also spent a lot of time not in cities, not in groups.
Yeah.
So going outside is a lot easier for me. And I was also raised outdoors and hiking, backpacking, doing all that. So it was fine.
We talk a lot about it on this show, and I'll even put a link in the show notes. How to poop in nature, it is a problem.
It is a problem. You got to do it right.
You got to do it right. Learn the steps to how to poop in nature. We talk about it all the time. There should be a prerequisite for van life. You have to know how to pitch a tent.
You have to know how to pitch a tent. You have to know how to dig a cat hole.
Exactly.
You got to know, there's a couple of things you need to know how to do.
Yes, before you get in a rig. So, okay.
So I didn't use the 5-gallon bucket very much.
Okay.
And that was just for solids anyway. My liquid situation has always been a funnel and a bottle.
Yeah. Pee jug.
Yep. And man, when I was first learning how to use the funnel bottle situation, I peed all over the floor so many times.
That's awesome.
So many times.
Yeah.
Because you gotta learn.
At the end of
you
the
don't
day,
know.
Pee on your floor in your rig is a van life rite of passage.
Yes.
Period.
If you have not had pee on your floor,
you're not a true van lifer.
You're not doing it right.
No, you're not doing it right. At the end of the day, you could have the most expensive toilet on the planet, and if you don't pee on your floor, something's wrong. And it is what it is. So you go from the 5-gallon bucket. Do you upgrade?
No,
Okay.
I downgraded.
Downgraded.
After the 5-gallon bucket, I got a little paint can.
Yeah.
Because it was I don't need this 5-gallon bucket taking up all this fucking space, and I'm never using it. So I got a little paint can, which again, I used 2 times ever.
Yeah.
And then I got rid of that. I had a cassette toilet for all of a month, and I hated it. It was bad.
Cassette toilets, and everybody on this show knows it. I say it every single episode. I hate them. I think they're the worst. I'm a big composting toilet person.
Yeah.
And
I did not like them.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah.
So I don't in the van right now, I don't have anything.
Yeah.
I just have my pee jug.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I go outside, and if there's an emergency, I use a dog bag.
Yeah.
And you just
you figure it out.
You figure it out.
Yeah.
And that is also an experience to figure out.
Exactly. I mean, it's a part of van life. So, but no.
Hashtag blessed.
Yeah, exactly. Minus peeing on your floor, no crazy horror stories. Or actually, let's ask the best spot you've been in? The greatest, like...
The greatest poop view?
Yeah, poop view.
I don't know. I've had so many. I've been on the road for so long.
Yeah, I know. That's why I asked the question.
It's impossible. I can't pick.
Okay.
I can't pick just one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had so many good ones.
Well, that's, again, like kind of one of the reasons why we live in these rigs. Like, we spend so much time in such beautiful places that it's hard to narrow it down to, like, your favorite. I get asked all the time, like, what's the favorite spot you've been in?
Oh, man,
like,
I can't answer that.
There's no way I can answer that question. Yeah,
it depends on the time of year. It depends on the activity. It depends on the company, if there is any. Like, I cannot pick a best place I've ever been.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Impossible.
It is impossible. Yeah, truly. Well, this is a perfect lead into the next question, question 9. What is the happiest and hardest moments you've had living your life on the road?
I mean, I think I already talked about the happiest, like just learning that I can do anything.
Okay.
The hardest moments...
Was that like what you would consider that like your happiest time? Was that self-discovery of I can really do what I can do things that
it's
I can't think of.
It's a continual thing.
Yeah.
And it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
And so those are like continually my happiest moments are I can handle this, I can handle this, I can handle this, I can handle this.
It's doing it, getting through it, and then realizing, oh shit, I just did that. And then that is like building up your happiness over time. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And then the hardest moments, sometimes you get really lonely, for sure, if you're single and you're traveling alone a lot. That's been challenging. After my breakup, things were like really, really hard. But I don't know if they were hard because vanning is hard or if they were hard because breakups are hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, I'm with you.
So in terms of like van stuff being hard...
I mean, you can talk about loneliness as being hard. We talk about being alone on the road.
Be hard even for like the most independent, like introverted person. You know, I love being alone. It is fantastic, and sometimes it just kind of aches. Yeah.
Well, I also reference and want to talk about it because it's something that we talk a lot about on this show, because it's very much a part of this culture. You're going to be alone. A lot.
A lot.
Yeah, and you need to be okay with that.
Bless technology.
Yeah, like technology's great, but at the same time, you're going to be by yourself.
Yeah.
A majority of the time in van life. And so, you know, whether you find comfort in that or it's difficult for you or you like it or hate it or whatever, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So understand that before you get in a rig.
Yeah, so one thing that we've touched on is like living in a van will bring you face to face with yourself.
Yeah.
And so one of the most annoying quotes in the world, right, is wherever you go, there you are.
Yep.
And so if you cannot be happy where you are right now, if you're at home, like not in a van watching this, and you want to be in a van, if you cannot be happy where you are, you will not be happy in a van.
Yeah.
You might be happy for fleeting moments. You might be happy like, I did it. I have a great view. I went on a hike. Whatever. You might have these moments of fleeting happiness, but being in a van really like, I said it strips away the complicated parts of life. It strips away your distractions. And so you will be out in the middle of the woods somewhere or a fucking parking lot or whatever. And
it exposes
something will happen and you will have to deal with yourself. And whether you choose to deal with yourself or you choose to try and drive away from yourself, you cannot outdrive your feelings.
Right.
You cannot just like drive and you know, outdrive your feelings. I talk about windshield therapy a lot, and like driving can be very therapeutic, but it can also be a distraction. And so if you move into a van thinking it's going to solve all your problems, it's not. You're going to be disappointed. Like you still have to deal with yourself.
Well, and to me, like, and I'm speaking very much in this present moment of personal experience, it brings things out inside of you that maybe you didn't realize were issues.
Yeah.
You know, and that you didn't realize. Yeah, surprise. Oh, by the way, you have these things that you need to work on internally. And
and that can be such a blessing.
100%. Like
right now. That way.
Yeah, like right now, like it is the most important thing in my life right now. And I'm so, thankful and grateful that these things are being exposed inside of me and things that I know that I'm facing and having to work on. And I'm, providing myself the grace and the patience and the space in order to do so, because I know they're important and I know I'll be a better person because of it. But at the same time, I don't know if these things would have come to light living in a city.
They might have, but it probably wouldn't have been
For a long time.
For a while,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't have been as clear.
Yeah.
Because you can always distract.
Yeah.
You can always find an excuse. And I think living in a van takes away the distractions, takes away the excuses.
Yeah.
And you get to choose, like, do I want to work on this, or
Yep.
do I want to
Run.
shove this under the rug and drive away from it?
Yep.
And, like, you can't drive away from it.
Well, again, like you said, eventually it's going to catch up to you.
Yeah,
At the
it
end
always
of the day.
does.
It always does. And those things are, that concept of being alone is just such a big overarching, thing that I want people to realize is a part of their life when they join this community. And
The community is excellent, and you're still going to be alone.
yeah, you can go and be around friends as much as you possibly want, but you're still going to be alone. And
It's
whether
very individual lifestyle.
Yeah,
Like, you can lean on your community and rely on your community, but at the end of the day, it's your house on your wheels,
Yeah.
and you have to deal with it.
yeah, and it's interesting. I built Althea, and I'm a skier. Some people that know me well know this exactly. It's what I'm passionate about. I wanted to spend time in the mountains in the winter. And, we're in February. I'm in beautiful Arizona, not skiing, which I'm going to in a few weeks. But it was one of the things that I didn't actually think about was winter van life is you're so alone. One, there's few people that do it.
Yep.
Because their rigs aren't built to survive in the winter.
There's a growing number of people doing it, though. These heaters are getting a lot more accessible than they were when I built out my van.
That's very true, and I have met some of them. But at the same time, like, your access to parking locations, your access to... So small.
So diminished.
So limited, so... Like, all of those things that you think about are hard in the summertime get 10 times harder in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize how lonely winter lifestyle or winter van life was going to be. Like, that was something I was so looking forward to. And then this year has been very eye-opening to me. It's been like, this is really, like, you're really alone.
This is different
than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, 100%. So it's, again, you go through these kind of ups and downs and a lot of self-discovery in this lifestyle. And it's, the overarching theme more often than not, and it gets talked about on the show all the time, is that concept of being alone. So it's just something that people are going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I do too. Like, I think it's, obviously it's, it's again, speaking very personally, it's bringing things to light that maybe I would never have realized. And I'm glad that these things are in front of me, and I'm glad I'm working on them, and I'm glad they're present in my life right now. And I honestly think it's because of van life and nomadic travel that's, allowing me to do this. So it's definitely a good thing. Question number 10 is define hashtag van life and provide one piece of advice that you'd give somebody living a life on the road. And before you answer, you're going to notice a little cut in this question. Last question, question number 10, we recorded for 1 hour and 30 minutes, and it cut off the last, 2-3 minutes of her answer. So we're going back, and it's 30 minutes later since we stopped, and we're going to reshoot the last question. So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's actually worked out okay. So this is the first time ever, though, that I'm going to have a cut.
I am happy to be the first.
Yeah, exactly. It's an honor to be the first. Yeah. So no.
Yeah, I feel so special.
Exactly. So yes, the light's gotten a little bit better, and you're gonna notice she's got a dog on her lap now, and it's not like it was in question 9. So yeah, we're gonna finish up question 10, just like this. So
yeah. So I think that there's a difference between actual van life and hashtag van life, to answer your question.
Yeah.
I think that hashtag van life is very aspirational and only good things.
Yeah.
Only rainbows and unicorns. Only hot, women in thongs hanging out the back of Sprinter vans like by Alpine Lakes or whatever. And nothing bad ever happens and everything is great.
Yeah.
And real van life is not like that at all.
Yeah.
Real van life is actually really hard.
Yeah.
And there will be a lot of stressors that happen like every day, and you might cry like daily.
Yeah.
It's healthy. It's good for you. You should cry.
Exactly.
But like van life, I mean, even the phrase like van life is like somewhat new. Well,
Puppy dogs.
yeah, just Archie.
That's Archie.
Clarence.
Yeah. Sorry. It's okay.
It's okay. It's just to be a chaotic episode. Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop. Quiet.
Come here, Lisa.
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 Come here.
Come here.
Hey. I know, you're
It's just
protecting
Archie.
everybody. You've met Archie. You like him. Sometimes van life is chaotic.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's loud.
This is exactly a perfect representation of like what van life is like.
Yeah.
No, I think what you're saying is spot on. A friend of mine says there is #van life, and then there are people that live in a van.
Yes, and they're different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that people who live in a van can make van life content.
Yeah,
I think,
of course.
you know, like I love my lifestyle. It is challenging, but I do love it, and I can find a beauty in it, and I can find beautiful places, and I can, you know, make pictures that that make it look stunning and gorgeous, but also like there's a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
And like all the simple things are now complicated.
Yeah. And
But-
living in a van is hard.
Yeah, living in a van is hard. It's not for everybody. If you think it's for you, you know, my piece of advice would be to give it a shot. Like, give yourself the opportunity to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Because if you do it for a weekend, if you do it for 3 months, if you do it for a year, if you do it for 10 years, it'll change your life.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long you do it. There's no like right or wrong way to do it, or length of time to do it, or reason to do it, or any of that.
Yeah.
But I think if it's like speaking to you and you think, hey, maybe I should give that a shot, I think you should give yourself the opportunity of giving it a shot, because it could be the life change you need.
Right, exactly. And even if you do it and you decide that this is not for you, in that 3 months time, in that 6 month time, in that year time, it will change you for the better.
Yeah. It'll help you get to know yourself better.
Yeah.
And it will show you that you are so much more capable than you realize.
Yeah.
Like me now, I'm more capable than I realize. And I realize pretty far how capable I am.
Yeah.
Like compared to me like 4.5 years ago. And you are way more capable than you realize right now, sitting wherever you're sitting, watching the show. And you should gift yourself the opportunity to see exactly how capable you are.
Yeah.
You could be a big, brave dog, too.
It's just Archie.
That wraps up the episode.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Hey, stop.
It's just Archie.
I know. But he's far enough away. Stop it. Lisa, you're not helping. We egg each other on. Stop. The spray bottle's all the way over there now.
It's okay. Archie's almost out of sight. You won't be able to see him in 2 seconds.
Stop. Clarence. Stop, buddy. Hey,
It's okay.
Lisa, you're not helping.
He's gone. He's gone. That's awesome. I love it.
So that's real van life.
Exactly. It's what happens. Like, you know.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happens. But
Stop, bud. You can come up here, but you can't be up here if you're going to yell.
let's talk about real quick before we end the episode, your podcast.
My podcast is called Deliberate Living. I started shooting episodes for it in January of 2020, and I started releasing episodes in February of 2020. I released an episode a week for 2 years.
It's amazing.
There's like 120 episodes now. And right now, at this time, this chapter is producing episodes as I feel inspired and as I have space on my external hard drives, which is a limiting factor right this minute. I need to get some more. But yeah, I started it as a way to share all the stories and answer all the questions, share all the resources about how people can live deliberately alternative lifestyles, because I feel like it's a big travesty that there is not more conversation about it out there. I didn't know that there were like other ways to live life than the prescribed life, as I call it,
the white picket fence, the 9 to 5.
you go to high school.
Kids.
you get a diploma, you go to college, you get a degree, like the whole fucking thing. And I thought that's what you were supposed to do, and I didn't really know that there was another way until February of 2011 when I met my first road person.
Yeah.
And I think that is doing a huge disservice to the people of the world. And I think that, you should know that there are other ways to live life out there, and you should feel empowered to pursue your curiosities and to pursue a lifestyle that might be more fulfilling for you than the one that you were sold growing up. And that lifestyle works for some people. I'm not knocking it.
Yeah.
It just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out why I was miserable trying to follow it. I thought I was the problem and there was something wrong with me. And there isn't.
No.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so the whole point of my show, and the majority of the stuff that I create, the stuff that I write and produce and everything else, is to help inspire, empower, encourage, provide resources for people to live their deliberate lifestyles.
Yeah, exactly.
On purpose, not just on prescription.
Right, exactly. Well, and again, van life is one nomadic lifestyle, and there's
it's an option.
It's an option, and there's many ways, and there's many options. Whether it's traveling via Airbnb, or traveling as a thru hiker, or traveling the world in a backpack, like international travel as a backpack. Yeah. There's so many different ways to do it. We reference you reference a friend living on a motorcycle, traveling. Speaking of the devil, the ATVs.
Only chaos for the last question.
Exactly, it's perfect. It's exactly as I would want it. I think all of that information is so important, and I like the fact that your podcast includes a lot of very specific topics, and you talk very specifically about certain things. Whether it's relationships, whether it's business, whether it's coaching, which I know you do that as well.
Yep, I do. I like to offer coaching to people who are looking to live more deliberately, whether that's in a van or through a business or whatever, because I think it's so important.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's finding that, I don't want to call it lifestyle, because ultimately you're just trying to find a way to be happy in how you live. So if it's van life, okay, great. If that's the lifestyle, quote unquote, that you need to be happy, go find a way to do it. Ultimately, and don't be afraid to try and fail. Don't be afraid to if you're miserable in your current situation, something else is out there that will make you happy. It's taking the risk and believing in yourself to take that first step to try and go discover what that actually is.
Yeah, and there are more resources out there now than there ever have been before. Yeah. And we're not special. There's no reason you can't do this.
Exactly. I mean,
it can be as expensive or as cheap as you want. It can be as mobile or as stationary as you want. It can be whatever you want.
Yeah. The only difference between, say, you or I or somebody watching this episode and hasn't started yet is we started. Yeah. That's the only difference.
That's it.
That's it. You can do it any way you want. You can do it in any form you want. You can easily come join this community and they'll accept you no matter what. The difference is we started. And obviously I think it's the great piece of advice that everybody gives on this show is really just start. Have the courage just to take that first step. And you will find, again, it may not be for you.
Right. Don't put rules on yourself and limitations and stuff. Life has enough limitations. You don't need to add to it. Don't be the thing that gets in your way. There will be other things that get in your way. There will be other challenges. There will be other roadblocks. Don't be one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Get out of your own way.
Get out of your own way.
And kind of just let it happen. And you'll discover if this is for you or not. And either way, you're going to learn some important lessons along the way. And I think it's going to be, good no matter what. So, it's been a blessing for me. Living this lifestyle has brought so many things to the surface for me, present day included, very specifically. Today, right now, things that I'm going through that I don't think I would have ever faced living in a city, or they would have been hidden for a very long time and I wouldn't have realized, some internal things that I know that I needed to work on. And living on the road has literally brought them to the surface and put them right in front of me. And it's either a decision. It's you either work on them and you better yourself, or you just run. you know,
Yeah,
and
you
you
can
hide.
still distract yourself in a van, but it's harder to do
Yeah.
than, finding distractions or covering things up or, shoving certain emotions or experiences in the corner.
Yep.
Like in an apartment, there are much fewer corners, much smaller spaces to try and hide shit.
For sure.
And you can't outrun or outdrive your problems. Your
Yeah.
emotions are going to be there. They will beat you to your destination. They will be there when you get there.
Yep.
And I think that, having the opportunity to really, like, shed the disguises and, like, come face to face with yourself is an opportunity that everyone should take.
I'm so grateful for the very hard things that I have faced these last few months in my life. Like, it's one of those things that I'm embracing as such an opportunity to grow for myself as just a person. But then also, like, my future friends and my future person down the road, like how much happier I know I'll be. Just facing all these things and going through this difficult time, it's a good thing. It's something that I'm really relishing in, and I'm really, like, it's not easy, it's not fun, but at the same time, like, I'm welcoming the idea of, like, the learning that I'm going through and the process that I'm going through, and it's honestly, it's because of this lifestyle. It's it brings it front and center pretty damn fast, and you just deal with it, and and you're going to be better off when you do, and that's a great thing. So
I think so.
It's one of the benefits of this lifestyle for sure. So Holly, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Chad, for joining me out here.
Yeah,
finding me in the desert.
This has been amazing. I'm really glad we've been able to have this conversation. Like I said, we've obviously been trying for a minute, and
it's been a long, even today.
Yes,
today we've been trying.
Like
for a
shooting this has been a bit of a challenge. Literally has been a challenge. But yeah, we are going to go enjoy the sunset. And we're going to hang out with our friends who have just arrived. And yeah, we're going to have a great night. So thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe the channel. And we will see you guys on the next episode. So thank you.
Bye. Should just be in and out.
It's okay.
It's mostly in, it looks like.
It's okay.
Whoa. Nice save.
Where are you going, goofball?
Oh, she's twerking.
I
She
like
wants you to
it.
scratch her butt, like right above her tail. Like that's her.
Oh, is that the spot?
That's her spot. Yeah.
I know how to be your best friend now.
Yes,
Between
you
me, meat, and the butt rubs.
Yeah.
We're gonna be best friends.
Just your average girl.
Yeah.
Met someone who was doing it like on purpose and like having a really great time, and that's when my eyes were kind of like opened
Okay,
to.
hold on one second. I'm gonna pause real fast.
Okay.
I just realized something.
Sure.
This is why my brain is so foggy right now. I'm not recording into my camera with the audio. I missed one chord.
Okay.
So we're gonna pause and redo. Good thing I like stopped. Okay. Now we are officially recording into the microphone, into the camera. Really nice thing to be able to hear. And this camera just sucks. I'm just done with this camera.
Why?
It has a mind of its own and likes to shut off whenever it wants.
Nice.
This one, like,
will do whatever it wants.
do whatever the fuck it wants, and it drives me bonkers. But there's a 2 terabyte card in that camera.
Shit.
Just for video.
That's insane.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really
How do you
great.
process that? I
Yeah.
have so many questions.
You have a very powerful MacBook Pro. I am, like, hard drive storage is
that's
becoming
a big
the
thing
biggest
for me.
is becoming the hardest part, like, right now. In the Nikon system, I have been for like most of my life, and I almost jumped ship to Sony like a couple years ago, and then they finally came out with this flagship camera, which is like the camera I've been dreaming of for like photography forever. Here's a video file. Figure out how to put it in software.
Enjoy.
And exactly, like how to chop it up and how to deal with audio and like all of those things. Like I had no concept of, and so amazing.
Oh my God.
Good job.
Well, at least
Good
he
job.
waited until
you waited
we
to
said
the
bye.
very end until we said goodbye. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
here to help.
it's still recording.
Yay!
Yay. Good God.